Hey girl, hey, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Misha. Thank you guys for joining me yet again for another review. Tonight we are reviewing The Real Housewives of Atlanta season 13, The Reunion Part 1. All right, I don't know if it's just me, but I wasn't really feeling Reunion Part 1. I mean, these are things that we've already talked about, but I mean, I guess they wanted to get into it as they get into it. But y'all, look, we could have really just went over to part 2 because it's looking like that's where the action is going to be. And as much as I hate to say it, as soon as Latoya came on, it seemed to get a little bit more interesting. Child, I'm tired. Anyway, if this is your first time here, then welcome. If you're back for a second or third time, then welcome back. If you have not yet hit the subscribe button, if you've been here as a returning viewer, please stop right now and hit that subscribe button for me. If you are new here and you like this content by the end of this video, then subscribe as well. All right, let's go, child. So the ladies show up, right? Y'all know Andy gonna come around and make his rounds, talking to people out early in the morning that don't want to be bothered, okay? So then he goes over to Kenya and he says, who are you not looking forward to seeing? Andy, you already know it's going to be Portia and Drew. Honey, why are you asking these questions? So she was like, well, you know, I'm not too fond of Portia, and I'm not too fond of Drew, but I'm pretty much in a good space with everyone else. Honey, it's only 5 of y'all. So, and you're included in the 5. So you're cool with 2 people or 3. Honey, let's move forward, child. Anyway, so as they go out, you know, everyone's coming out. As soon as Portia came out, y'all know Kenya rolled her eyes, honey. She hates the sight of Portia. Do you hear me? She can't stand even being in the same space. Candy comes out, and then all of a sudden I start seeing like little paparazzi flashes. I'm like, oh, not the lights, honey. Oh, no pictures, child. The flashing lights coming from every which way, honey. Flashing lights. Okay, I'm like, okay, Candy, but Candy is still not giving what it should have gave. I mean, I know you said the pictures didn't quite do it justice, but this just ain't it for me. For me. Now, I want y'all to keep that in mind before you go down in the comments. For me, this is not it. Because if you look at the grand scheme of things and how all the other ladies are dressed, and then you zoom into Candy, it's kind of like that scene in Legally Blonde where she went to the party wearing that bunny costume and everyone else was dressed in plain clothing. Like, it's just, you're just sticking out like a sore thumb, honey. It ain't giving what it's supposed to give. Okay, let's move forward. Andy starts talking about the COVID pounds, honey, that we all picked up, child, because I'm not going to act like I didn't sit here and pick up me a few COVID pounds myself. So they're just flashing back to all the ladies, honey, looking like the little Oompa Loompas throughout the episodes. And Kenya said that she had gained 30 pounds. But she said once she reduced those boobs, honey, then she lost all of it, because 20 pounds of it was her boobs. So then they talked to Cynthia. She said she lost 10, and 10 was probably that scale she threw away, because y'all know she said that little lion scale. She had that little lion scale, so she probably threw that away, and that was the 10 pounds, honey. So Andy gonna say, Kenya, why do people think your butt is fake? Boy, listen. Look, my opinion is it looks manufactured to me, and we're gonna move forward. They started talking about Portia and Dennis's relationship and her journey with activism. And so Andy says seeing Georgia turn blue must have been great. Here goes Cynthia. It was great. It was like a flip-flop. Now, Cynthia, honey, we know that's your name. We know you're the flip-flopper, child. You'll be on one side talking about you still getting to know this person, and then flop over here and say you're getting to know this person, child. So just leave the flip-flopping to yourself, okay? They asked Kenya, you know, why she thought Portia was like faking her activism, or the activism wasn't real. So Kenya basically just said, you know, she excluded me from the PSA. Kenya, that's not what they asked you. They asked you, why are you going around saying she's getting arrested on purpose? Like, why are you saying these things? She's like, oh, well, you know, I feel like I should have been included in the PSA. And so Andy said, well, why did you exclude her? And Portia said, well, if you don't believe in me and my activism, then why should I invite you to be a part of my PSA? Now, you know, I was like, yeah, that's true, Portia. Like, why would you want somebody around you that's not actually checking for what you're doing and actually be smudging your name? Okay, and so Kenya said, well, you know, her words don't match her actions. Now, Kenya, you a whole fool for questioning her activism. But Portia, okay, in her defense, she did involve you in her domestic violence PSA. If y'all remember back from season 7, when she was doing that whole PSA about domestic violence, when Sheree had outed her and they was having this big old thing, they did the whole PSA about domestic violence. She included you, Shamia, Nene. She included everybody. So I can kind of see it. And then I can kind of see the other side as well. Don't y'all come for me in these comments. I am unbiased. What I see is right, I'm going to say it's right. When I see it's wrong, I'm going to say it's wrong. I just got to give that disclaimer because some people lose their mind down in the comments. So, I get it, girl, honey, but, you didn't want her involved because this is something that you're really passionate about, and nobody wants Kenya and her negative energy surrounding them. So I get it. So as she's talking about the activism and everything, Portia's like, well, why you talking from over there on the curb? What have you been doing in the streets? Yes, Portia, for the rehearsed read of it all, honey, because I know that didn't come off the dome. The one way I know it didn't come off the dome is because it didn't flow as naturally as it should have flown. You know what I'm saying? It seems like you said it in private, or maybe you thought about it and you said, that's what I'm going to say on reunion day, honey. That's what I'm going to say. I'm just saying, honey, picking up some cues from Phaedra High Class Parks, okay? So then they started asking Portia why she keep kicking Dennis out, honey. And they said she kicked him out 3 times. She's like, child, look, because of the pandemic, honey, he was getting on my nerves. I was tired of looking at him. I was tired of looking at them glasses. I was tired of eating them hot dogs. Pilar was hollering. So I wanted him to get out. Okay, and I feel you on that because I want to sit my son outside the door sometime. Not necessarily hoping somebody will pick him up, but just sit him outside the door. Child, that pandemic was hard. It's still going on. But the first half, when people were for real, honey, child, everybody needed a break. But she said now, they're doing well as co-parents. And Portia said that she has been on a date. Latoya hooked her up. No, ma'am. No, thank you, honey. Nobody want to go nowhere with nobody Latoya chooses. Now, Adam is fine, her ex-husband. He is looking like something. I got to say that. But that new dude, Vaughn or whatever, okay, no, thank you. Then they turned to Kenya to start talking to her about Mark. Oh, Lord, here we go. Andy asked, where are you guys now? She said, well, I won full custody and we're still in court. And so Andy said, Portia, you actually defended her against Latoya when Latoya was telling her business. And Portia was over there looking like, I sure did. And so Kenya said, you know what? I just want to say thank you. Here go Drew. I did too. I was saying too, I said that, you need to be careful with what you say. Honey, Kenya act like Drew wasn't even speaking, child. Dust. Okay? Kenya, you so childish because quite frankly, Drew was being respectful of your personal business, because if I don't like somebody and you're telling me something about them, I could easily use that as ammunition against you. But her moral fiber said, you know what? Don't discuss those kind of things because that's not something we should be privy to. So, you should have said thank you. King, you so nasty, honey. Ooh, and then you wonder why the universe hit you like they do. Ugh. Anyway, Kenya said in court that Mark was fighting for Brooklyn, but not for her not to be on the show. But not about his actual family or anything that had to do. All I heard was Mark don't want Brooklyn on the show, but he's not fighting for me and not fighting to actually be a family. Not fighting for our family to stay together. So I ain't trying to hear nothing he talking about. That's just me paraphrasing. You can check out the episode yourself. Andy said, yeah, he blocked you, didn't he? And she said, yes, but I'm unblocked now. Andy said, let's call him. Andy is shady boots, honey. Andy said, let's give him a call, honey. Not you about to have that lady call and get error message 404. You know that man still got her blocked, child. Kenya lashes almost fell off. Kenya was like, well, we can. Honey, don't call his bluff because Andy looked like he'll let you pull that cell phone out, okay? Child, that's a mess. So they asked Drew why she's always talking about Kenya's marriage, which you are, girl. Talking about if she would have been licking it and splitting it, he would have been lickety split. You forgot about all that? Honey, did you forget that? Because Drew said, I don't talk about her marriage. Lies, okay? Then they talk about the stray comment because Drew was basically saying she came for me and my husband first, calling us strays when we came over to Cynthia's house. So apparently, which I don't know because I really don't pay too much attention to Drew when she's tweeting, or any of them for that matter. Drew tweeted something and it was the definition of a stray, but she put that it was someone who was separated and that or it's a person or a thing that's separated from a particular space or something like this, and that all of her family is under one roof. And Kenya, child, when they go low, Kenya go to hell. Kenya gonna say, well, you all aren't under one roof. Your baby daddy is under the roof of a jail. Kenya, seriously, lady, this is just, you get ignorant, child. Just ignorant. Her son could potentially see this reunion. This is my thing. I don't mind that y'all fight amongst each other, but don't even have anything to say that could potentially affect the kids. Like you saying that his daddy is under the roof of a jail. He's no longer in jail. Okay. We saw him on the episode. Old daddy is out. Okay. So you need to stop saying things like that, because if someone were to say, well, marking his earring looking just like Brooklyn or under the roof of a jail, you would be pissed, honey. And yes, I said his nose ring, child. Honey, girl, I don't think we forgot about that nose ring. I was saying something like that. And I know that had to hurt Drew. Now, look, I'm not for hurting people. You know, I'm all for having a good kiki or throwing some shade or getting your point across. But Kenya, you can get disgusting, honey. Ugh. Anyway, Drew said, well, you know what? You could have said it to my face, honey. She ain't gonna say nothing. Andy starts talking about Kenya and her wearing that cultural, inappropriate Halloween costume and that headdress. And so Kenya said, you know, I talked to an organization and realized that the custom is not a joke and it's not a costume. Honey, what confuses me is you know everything else, okay? You can string together a sentence like nobody's business, the most articulate housewife on Real Housewives of Atlanta, but you didn't know that that was inappropriate. And girl, you are not of Indian descent. I don't believe you, because when Andy asked you, well, what tribe are you from, or what is your lineage or whatever, you couldn't even give an answer. Talking about some of my aunts lived on a reservation. Okay. My family is from Virginia. What is your point? Like, Kenya, girl, gone. Then she starts giving this long, drawn out beauty pageant answer, which is why I could tell she won the pageant, because, honey, she was talking and I wasn't even listening. Portia said, well, you know, I find it very funny that, you know, you expect forgiveness and you want people to forgive you, but you talked about me when I didn't know about the Underground Railroad. She was like, I'm so proud of you that you did that. But when I had to correct myself about not knowing about it, you know, the Underground Railroad, you had something to say. And if it was me, you would still be roasting me. Listen to me, girl. Portia, you should have known about the Underground Railroad. You thought the Underground Railroad was an electric train. We learn about that in elementary school. So right now, I'm not trying to hear whatever y'all talking about, child. So then she starts saying, oh, y'all just getting on my nerves. So then Drew starts to say that, you know, when they saw her in the Indian costume, it was because they were doing, you know, a ceremony for the ancestors. And Candy was like, it was a Halloween costume because we saw the picture. And then Kenya was like, no, because it said #Halloween. Honey, all y'all lying. Just leave the headdress costumes alone. Anyone in their culture and their customs is off limits. And Portia, I'm so happy that you now know that the Underground Railroad was not an electric train and somebody had to be driving it. Honey, I'm just not going to let that go. They go over to Drew to discuss her part in the season. Now, y'all notice we ain't talked to Cynthia yet, y'all. Post Cynthia. So they show her flashbacks. And so then Andy asks, you know, what was it like between Josiah and his dad? And then so Drew said, you know, Ralph was instrumental in helping bridge the gap between the two because, it was tough. And he was like, so are things better with old daddy? Andy, stop calling this man old daddy. Like, you should know better. See, that would have got you cussed out if it was me. But see, Drew is the one who brought out old daddy. And now everybody thinks it's okay to call this man that. And I'm sure that has to make him feel some kind of way. Please call this man Josiah's biological father, like you would do those Caucasian housewives. Like, Andy's starting to get on my nerves. This whole franchise can just go, child. Whew. Candy said, so then he asked Candy, you know, with everything that you're going through with Block and Riley, how did you feel about her actually showing this and sharing this on camera? And Candy said, you know, I'm happy that she shared it. And so she asked where they were in that process. And so she said, you know, he is starting to pay the money. Now he's on a payment plan. But the thing is, you know, Riley is the one who wanted her money. Riley said, run me my money. Okay. Child, she said, can I get my money in black trash bags? I know that's right, Riley. And so Andy said, well, why did you continue with the child support? Because she should have. Listen to me. Parenting requires two people, no matter what you make, no matter what your financial situation is. You should help take care of your seed. Honey, I don't care if she was a zillionaire. The man owes the money because that is his child, honey. And I ain't debating nobody. I said what I said and I ain't changing it. Like, that's just crazy for him to think he doesn't have to support his own child. Anyway, so then they asked Ralph, honey, because, you know, he came out in his tuxedo and all, looking real handsome. And they asked him about Tampa. So Drew said, you know, I don't think that he cheated on me. I trust him. He showed me the hotel receipts and the dinner receipt. And it said one guest. Child, Drew, let me explain something to you, honey. I worked in food service for 14 13 years. I had regulars who would come in with their mistresses, one after the other after the other. A receipt with one guest on it. What they would do is they would say, hey, can you split these drinks off for me? And can you give me a separate check for that salad? And I'm going to pay for that in cash. Honey, these men do all kind of stuff. Honey, that one guest check don't mean nothing at all. Okay. And then she was like, and what's the app, babe? The app that you had on your watch showing me that you ran? How you know somebody wasn't running next to him? What does the mileage on his Fitbit mean? Oh, Drew, honey, but you look cute. Oh, girl. Anyway, Candy sitting over there, child, just looking just as disgusted. And so Andy said, as I'm looking at, Mistress Candy, she doesn't look too impressed. You don't believe it? And so Candy was like, no, I don't believe nothing he talking about, honey. I think it's a lie. And I feel like you should have came forth earlier. I don't feel like you should just be saying it right now. So, Ralph is looking and he's like, yeah, I should have come forth earlier. You're absolutely right. And I should say something. And Portia was like, you owe all of us an apology. And he was like, I apologize, but this is my thing. Candy, you don't like Drew, do you? You just don't like Drew. I can tell that Candy genuinely does not like Drew. Candy never really speaks on people's relationships or any of that. And everything that Drew says, she side-eyes it, and then she just came out like, and you was cheating. Candy, don't do that, honey, because when the streets was talking and Mama Joyce and them was talking about Todd, you didn't want nobody to say nothing about that. Girl, don't do that. Child, so anyway, Drew asked Kenya, she said, why did you retweet the thing that someone tweeted about me showing this on screen was cringy? Okay, then Drew starts to give this entire monologue, but not a tear was shed, okay? But in all fairness to Drew, it's hard being a parent and knowing what to do and what not to do when it comes to your kids and what it is that's going to make them happy. And, she's just trying to navigate and she doesn't know what to share and what not to share. I mean, she's a first-year housewife, so I understand. And also, Candy has put Riley on there crying, saying she doesn't want a relationship with her dad and everything else, and nobody had anything to say about that. So I do understand Drew in one sense, but at the same time, Kenya is not the only one that was uncomfortable watching that. That is a private moment, and I do feel like it should have been shared just with the father and the son. So, Drew was really upset, and so then Kenya started going on about, you talked about my husband. Kenya, this is not the same, honey. That's apples and oranges. You are talking about her kid. Like, everyone's talking about Mark. He treats you like dirt. The scum of the earth, honey, gum underneath his shoe. Everyone speaks about Mark. And don't try to say, he's my child's father. He's a scumbag, okay? If he had any respect for your daughter, he would be treating you a little better. So, I mean, let's not forget that. Like, child, we got to call a spade, honey. So they start going around and about, and then Candy was like, well, you know what? I think we should just leave kids out of it. Kids are off limits. And so then Kenya was like, well, I didn't say anything about her kid. And she was like, but you retweeted something about her kid. So Kenya ultimately apologized only because Candy said something, because you ain't fooling me, child. But Drew, let me just say this to you. Just know when you put personal things on TV that you open your family up to scrutiny, okay? Which is why it should have been off camera. Because it can affect your son. It's clearly affecting you. Ralph looked like he wasn't bothered, child. But I'm just saying, you have to be very careful what you share and what you don't share. That's all I'm going to say on that. Child, then they take a brief intermission and we hear Latoya calling Kenya, right? So she was like, girl, Ralph's barber busted in my in my room and brought me some vitamin C and had a camera all in my face. And so I was like, okay, what's really happening? She comes out, and y'all know Latoya comes in, honey. She's coming in hot. She sits down. She's finally. And so Andy says, well, hi, welcome. And she's like, are you happy? He's like, are you happy to see everyone? And she said, I'm happy to see all my friends, everyone except SpongeBob SquarePants. Okay. And everybody was like, oh, Lord, honey, she's starting already. Now, mind you, when they had the brief intermission, Latoya told Andy that she had a kidney infection. Okay. Keep that in mind. So then she's like, yeah, Drew's husband's barber came into my room with an emergency and a camera all in my face, and I'm trying to get over this cold. And so Andy said, do you have a cold or do you have a kidney infection? She said, I have a cold, a kidney infection, a UTI, a STD, a elemental P. Girl, listen, don't say you got a whole, UTIs are, they happen. But at the same time, girl, don't say all that on TV. And child, make sure you pee after intercourse, honey. Ugh, okay? So she's like, and she had it all in my face. And so Drew was like, you know what? I apologize for that. That person is gone. I had nothing to do with that. They were completely in the wrong. That person didn't belong here. So they're gone. And I apologize about that. Instead of Latoya accepting the apology because she wants a moment. As Nene would say, ooh, these girls fighting for them peaches, ain't they? So instead of her accepting the apology because, they can't stand each other, Latoya says, oh, you feeling yourself now that I upped your style game. And she's like, you're taking credit for something that no IG Jeremy actually did. Honey, not you say his whole name, not no IG Jeremy. Girl, you could have just said that the stylist did. Child, Drew is so new, honey. So anyway, Latoya, girl, stop, honey. Drew, you look cute or whatever. It's giving a little more than you usually give. But Latoya, please stop trying to take credit for what this lady has going on, honey. It's called first season blues, honey. All of them was looking a fool when they first stepped on the scene. And that concludes Reunion Part 1. This is the end of that review. And Part 2, they're going to be talking a little bit more. Marlo is going to join them, and Shamia and Latoya. And then I guess that's when we're going to get into the whole Bolo thing. But quite frankly, this first part of the reunion is just what we've heard through Twitter and through 17 different episodes. So child, it was dry as a Popeye's biscuit. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I gave what I could, honey. I was just uninterested, to be honest. Please do not hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, stay safe, stay blessed, spread love, not germs. Peace.